Hello all, welcome to the third chapter of building a web application with Python and Django. In this session, we will develop a simple web application. So far, we spoke about project and file structures of Django. Now, we will start writing a small website. Let's now go to pycharm. We will go to views.py file and start writing our functions in the views.py file. The functions we write here will be called by the Django when user performs some action. Let's start with adding some import statements. From Django.http, import HTTP response. From Django.shortcuts, import render, redirect. So, that's all with the imports, for now. Let's start writing our first function. The first function we will write is home. And this function will take an argument, request. Value for this parameter request will be sent by Django when the user performs some action in the UI. Let's just add a return statement. HTTP response. Hello world. We will add more complex code and logic later. But for now, we have a simple function which will return hello world. Next, our web application request should be routed to this function when a certain URL is accessed. For that, we need to define URL mapping for this function. We will be defining URLs mapping in the urls.py file, which should be present under our apps directory. We can reuse the existing urls.py file for creating the new urls.py file. I will copy the urls.py file from the default application to our limbs_app. In this new urls.py file, I will add a route mapping to home function. Let's remove the existing mapping for admin URL, as it is already present in the default app. I will add an import statement to import all the functions present under views.py file. Now, we will have access to all the functions present in views file. Here, we will remove the admin function mapping and link it to our home function. Now the URL mapping to home function is defined. But will Django know which function should be called when a request comes in? No, not yet. urls.py file present in the default application is the main entry point for routing. To link our application's urls.py file, we will add an import statement for the built-in function include, and then add a line to include urls.py module present under our app module. This will enable Django to include our URL mappings present under our app directory in its default URL mappings. Here, limbs_app refers to the app directory, which is a package for Python, and urls refers to the urls.py file, which is a module. As we have not provided any text in the first parameter, all the requests except the admin URLs will be routed to our app. If we have multiple apps and want to route only specific URL patterns, we need to specify the respective word in the first parameter. That's it. Now Django can see the URL mappings we will define in our urls.py file. Now, we need to start our application. Let's go to the documentation available in djangoproject.com and find the line for starting the application. We can use the basic command, but it will start the app with the default port of 8000. To start the app in a different port, we will use run server with port number 8080. This command will start the application and listen to port 8080. Now, our application is running with the URL we see in the console. When we click on this URL, it shows Hello World in our default browser. Because, when we accessed the URL in the browser, Django routed our request to the home function present in views.py. If we change the URL mapping, then the old URL will no longer work. We need to visit the new URL to see our message in browser. With this, we have built a basic function and accessed it from our browser. But, we just have only one URL pointing to one function in our code. For a real-world application, we will have many URLs and functions. Let me just add a new function, shopping, that will return message, welcome to shopping. Now, we need to add an entry for this function in urls.py file. If I go to the browser and change the URL to shop, then we get the message welcome to shopping. So again, the request from the browser goes to our system. The program running in our system is listening the port 8080. And once the program gets a request in that port, it routes the request to the appropriate function as per the mapping in urls.py file. Now, the request gets routed to the function present in views.py file. The function returns a response, and it comes back to the browser. But, we are just returning only a plain text response. In real-world applications, browsers will be getting rich HTML content. Now, it is time to learn how to create HTML files and return HTML content to the browser. We will create a new folder under the app named Templates. Under the Templates folder, we will create a HTML file named index.html. We will add a title as Library Information Management, which will be displayed in the browser. Then, we will add some content under the body tag, which will be displayed in the browser. We will put a h1 tag to add a heading text as Welcome to our library in the web page. But, how will Django know when it has to show this HTML page? To show this HTML page to the user, we will go to views.py file and add a render statement in the home function. Render is a built-in function of Django, which will take three parameters, such as a request, the path of the HTML file, and a context. Context will be a dictionary with key-value pairs of data. We will understand about context more in detail soon. When we go to the browser and refresh the page, it shows an error that template does not exist. Because, though we have created HTML file and modified our views function to render the HTML file, we did not tell Django where the templates are located. So, Django had no clue about the template's location and showed this error. Shall we fix this issue now? We will go to the settings.py file and update the templates section dirs parameter. Here, we will update the templates directory path with reference to the path of the current Python file. Path of the current Python file can be located at runtime with __file__. We will define the parent directory of this file and will go up one level to go the project folder. As we got the parent directory path, we can now go up one level by adding double dots before the app directory name. Finally, we will update the path with full templates directory path. Now, we will go to Home in the browser and we see the title changed and heading displayed. If we want to change the heading size, we can do that in the HTML. Now, if we go to the browser and refresh the page, we will see the header size changed. These are the basic steps for creating an app. But this is just one page and does not have any navigation to other pages. Let's add a link in HTML file. For hyperlinks to other pages and websites, we will use a tag. We can add the shop URL in href attribute of a tag. The text we give between a tags will be shown as a link in the UI. Now, we see the link displayed in the web page, and when we click on it, we get routed to the shop URL and we see the welcome to shopping message. So, we have just learned how to build a simple web page with a link to another page. We can follow the same steps to add as many links as we need. But this web page just displays a message and has a link. It cannot take any information from user. To get information from the user, we need to use web forms. Web forms can be added in HTML page using form tag with necessary web elements in it. In the form tag, we need to mention the method as post and action with an URL. The information entered by the user in web form will be submitted to the URL given in action. Let's enter it as save. Inside the form tag, we can define labels, input text boxes, buttons and any other controls we want to show in the form. Label tag can be used to add a label element in the UI for any text box or other web elements. Input type text will show an input text box in the web page where user can input some information. We can add a submit button in the web page using the button tag with type as submit. When user fills up the form and clicks on the submit button, the data filled up in the form will go to the URL defined in action attribute of the form tag. When we refresh the browser, we see the label, the text box, and the save button. But when we click on the save button, we will get an error as page not found. Because we don't have a URL mapping defined for the URL save. Now, we need to do few steps to resolve this issue. Django has many built-in security measures to protect the website and data. In Forms tag, it will need a CSRF token. This will add the CSRF token in the request going from HTML to our backend functions. Django can ensure the data received by the functions in views.py file are entered by the user and not manipulated by other sites and programs. This is to avoid cross-site request forgery attacks. We are adding a name attribute to the input type text. Django will send the data entered by the user with this name as the key. Now, when Save button is clicked, student_name will be sent to save URL given in action. We will write a function save student in the views.py file to handle this save operation. To get the student name entered by user, we can read it from request.post of student_name, which is the name we defined for that text box in HTML. In the HTML layer, when the user enters the name in the student name text box and clicks on the Save button, the request will go to the URL given in action as a post operation. And that request will contain all the data as key value pairs with the text box name as key and data entered as value. That's why we are reading the data from request.post using the key student_name. And then we can return the name as HTTP response with the message "Welcome to library," with the student name appended at the end. Finally, we will add a URL mapping from the save URL to the save_student function in urls.py file. So, when the save URL is invoked by the form, it will go to the save student function in the views.py file with the submitted information. Let's test our code and see how it works. If we go to our website, fill up the name, Steve, and click on the Save button, it shows the message, "Welcome to library, Steve." It's because, when we clicked on the Save button, our request was routed to save URL as a post call. And in that post call, the data, student name, is sent as key value pairs. Finally, the function we have defined in the views.py file has taken care of getting the name and returning the message with the name appended. So, now we have learned how to get some data from user with a web form, use it in the code and return some message. But how do we pass on this data to another HTML page we have? To learn about this, we will create a new HTML file and name it as welcome.html. In the welcome.html file, we will keep similar content as in the index.html file, but we will show a welcome message with the name parameterized. For example, we want to show the message, "Hello Steve." But we will not know the name while creating the HTML file, correct? Hence, we need to parameterize the name with a placeholder. We can specify the parameters with double parentheses. Django will automatically replace these parameters with data coming from the views in the context dictionary. Now, let's go to the views and add some code to render this HTML page with the name sent. In the save student function, we will change the return statement from HTTP response to render. As we wrote in the home function, we will write the render statement here to show welcome.html file. But the difference is, we will be sending some data to the web page. And, to send the data, we will use context. Context is a dictionary with key value pairs. Key will be the parameter specified in HTML file, and value will be the data that needs to be shown. If we give student_name as the key, and value as student_name, which is a variable, the student_name parameter in the HTML file will get replaced with the value present in the variable student_name. In the same way, we can send multiple parameters with appropriate data to the HTML. Let's go to the browser and refresh the page. Now, if I enter name as John and click on Save button, I will see Hello John in the next page. So far, we have learned the basics of web application development with Python and Django. But the HTML file we have written is very simple. It doesn't have much styling or a modern look and feel. If we go to the City Library website that we saw in the demo, it has lot of styling and has a better look and feel. In the next chapter, let's understand the basics of styling and formatting in HTML. Thanks for watching. To continue learning with us, like, share and subscribe to our channel.